visitor center open? I guess.
No. So now like the visitor center kind of gives like the, hey, this is Baldwinsville, if you want to go here or here, as opposed to the chamber. So I was just kind of
Yeah.
curious if the visitor center kind of took over the beautification of where all the nice things are in Baldwinsville and where you want to go.
Kind of, it's an outreach of the chamber. I mean, they get all the volunteers and they fill up with the brochures and that type of stuff. So it's actually just an extension of the chamber. But it's the same thing. You pull in on a boat and it's like, boy, we've got great places to eat. You're not far from the post office. Police are right across the river. You can almost see the police department from here, that type of thing. And you put your best foot forward. And so that's when the chamber was like right in the center of the village always. And, whatever, not just our village, but, all villages. And it was a different time back then. You didn't have the internet and so on. So the chamber really was your communication system with the outside world. And you put your best face on and look the best you could look for visitors. So,
well, thanks for explaining that to an outsider here, because we don't, where I grew up, we didn't have the Chamber of Commerce. They may in cities and stuff, but the little place that I lived, we didn't. So what else is new in the village since we talked? What's been going on?
Well, a lot of stuff, and that's specifically from the village, government, but things that affect people in the village. I talked to Claude Sykes from Van Buren yesterday about something else, and he told me about the fact that they've started a campaign to save the bridge on Canton Street that goes into the hamlet of Warners. I don't know if you're familiar, but you go down a steep hill into Warners and then you cross over the thruway. Well, the thruway is talking about rather than fixing that bridge, to remove it and not have a bridge there anymore, which means you cut Warners in half. The people who come down that hill, sometimes you come a little fast and you slow down. You use the bridge to kind of slow you down even more. Well, now people are going to come down that hill and hit a guardrail waiting for them. And so it doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. The fire department is just over the bridge. So the people on Canton Street, the fire department's going to have to go down to like Van Buren Road and come back up that way. And what would be a 2-minute response will be a 10 to 15-minute response. And so I will write a letter to help their campaign. It just doesn't make sense to abandon that bridge and take it out of there. And I think the county probably is on our side. They probably would not like to see that bridge go. It's a pretty well-used bridge. I'm going to guess that the state is going to say not as much as we would think. But if I'm going to Camillus, to one of the malls, I typically go that way, and into the village of Camillus, that's the way I go. So it's like we have a fight all the time for something, and so I guess this gives us something else to get geared up for. The governor did announce yesterday, I got an email that there is help for renters. There's actually a 2-pronged thing here when it comes to renters. We were notified yesterday that we are a renter-friendly community, which is nice to hear.
What does that mean?
That means, let me see if I can find my sheet of paper. That means that the recommended renter percentage of income should be no more than 30% of somebody's income. So if you're a low-income person, you make $35,000, rent should be no more than about $10,000 a year. And as it turns out, our average rent in the village is just between $10,000 and $11,000, and our median income is about $75,000 in the village. So that means that the index is about 14.5%, well under the 30% limit. So we're considered the 4th best community in New York State for renters and 30th in the United States. Now, this is I wouldn't bet my whole future on this study. It's from a lending type organization, But I would say that they've done some work. They used the census and that type of stuff to come up with some numbers. May not be 100% on the money, but I think what it does is it shows that you can live here as a renter reasonably. And that's always good news for me as a mayor and from our board to hear that, we're not driving people out with high rents right now. So we like to keep it that way.
I can say from my experience that I have a hard time when somebody puts a request in for rentals, hey, Shell, different people, do you know if my niece is graduating from college, she wants to come to Baldwinsville, is there any place for her to rent? Or a family that wants to sell their house and then maybe rent for a year and then buy something else. Baldwinsville rentals go very fast. They don't sit, as long as they're in good shape and it's a fair price. So that says something. People aren't going to Liverpool or Camillus or other places. They want to stay in Beeville, and if the rents were high, they would sit there. But everything pretty much turns, just like the houses right now in Baldwinsville, right? Everything's kind of turning over fast. So I guess the news doesn't surprise me. I just didn't know there was a study like that out there. So that's
I didn't either. I didn't know that either, but it was interesting. We've done well in different studies like that for safety, for rentability, good places to live. They use different things to judge that, and that's always good to hear. And we know that, but it's nice when the outside world recognizes that whatever we're trying to do, and some of it we have no control over, obviously, but house down the street from me here in Candlewick, they're moving to the other side of the city because of a job. She said their house, they had 5 offers the first day it was on the market.
Yeah.
And the house around the corner, they had an open house, and by the open house, it had been sold, like in 1 or 2 days. So Candlewick, since we've lived here, and it's the reason we built here was because we had, at the time, 2 boys in high school, and maybe one at Durgee, one in the high school, and they could walk to school. So after sports practices, they didn't necessarily need a ride home. If there was something going on at the school, they could walk over. Football game on Friday night, they didn't need a ride. Yep. Their friends could come here and walk after school to see them, that type of. So it was nice, and other people were finding the same the same thing, that they like the idea that you can walk to the schools and you don't walk on a street that has through traffic. Any cars that are in this development typically are here because they live here. You can't go anywhere. If you come in Edgewood or the lower entrance, you have to eventually turn around and go back out because you can't go through to anywhere. So people don't just drive through here and go 50 miles an hour because they're hustling to get somewhere. And so it has a lot, and plus the houses in here are nice, and people keep them up and keep their yards up nice. We're not an elite neighborhood. Our home prices are, I see people selling houses from anywhere from 140 to 180,000 in the neighborhood. I don't think that's exorbitant. You watch HGTV, and houses like in this neighborhood are in some places sell for $500,000-$600,000, and they don't have anything more to offer than somebody on Echodale or Edgewood. And so it's not just Baldwinsville. The whole area is a good place to live. And obviously in your business, you probably recognize that. So, hopefully
anywhere I talked to agents obviously throughout, or salespeople throughout, and it's Liverpool, it's Candlewick, like you said, but it's Harbor Heights. It's, you name a neighborhood in Baldwinsville, but you also go to Bayberry, you go to neighborhoods over in Camillus. It's just it's been a seller's market for quite some time, and it still is, because our area is just a nice place to live. But I rave about Baldwinsville, Mayor, which it has my heart, but Central New York in general, it's just a really, really nice place to live. So I'm not surprised that was in the news. And of course, I heard that as well, but sometimes the neighborhood talks faster than we can talk about it. So
yeah, right. But getting back to the rent assistance thing, I will post the release that I got from the state, and it does have a link on it of where you can go to inquire. They're not looking for people who are on Section 8 already, because I think those people are getting help. This is for people who are have an income. It just isn't a big income, and they don't want people getting pushed out of their homes because of the pandemic. So this is a part of the CARES Act, where the money's been given to the state to distribute. So I will post that link on our Facebook page today, and people can go about getting a hold of the state and see if they qualify. Obviously, your income level has got to be low. It's not somebody making 150,000 is not going to be able to get assistance for their rent. But it's just another little safety net for people who are challenged fiscally. And so I will post that. Let's see here. Brush next week. Remind people brush. Obviously, people are not mowing their lawns much because if they're like me, my lawn has not been growing.
No.
I use a mulcher, so I don't put anything at the curb, but a lot of people put up the bags of grass clippings, and I don't see much of them on the side of the road. But brush will be next week. I've been asked to remind people who use the bridge to fish. And again, I know that's a lot of them are not from Baldwinsville, but if you do fish or if you walk through that area, a little reminder to people to pick up their trash. I've gone by a couple times and it didn't look bad. Our engineer said that they've stopped by and picked up some things. And Officer Bob Thibault, this is a crusade of his. I mean, he stops, I think, every day and picks up paper and reminds people to use the garbage cans. And so we all pitch in a little bit. You don't have to be nasty to people. Just stop and ask them how they're doing. And then I hope you're going to put that stuff in the garbage can before you leave, type of stuff. And if they give you a hard time, just get out of there. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. But everything we can do to help not have things look messy. And the bridge is so obvious when people go over it. I mean, it's not just like another street. I mean, you're on the bridge. People are looking around a little bit to how low the water is, how high is the water, how fast is it coming over the dam. Oh, look at the garbage on the sidewalk. So we're asking for a little help. Let me see. Canton Woods had their first drive up, pick up their lunch. It had 26 people take part. Ruth Troy said it went very well. They actually had 28 people signed up and 2 people forgot. And I got to say, I can sympathize with people because I forget. It's easy. And particularly when you don't have things going on regularly to judge. When I used to go in the office on Mondays. I don't now, haven't for a while. So Monday was easy to remember that Tuesday was the next day. When you woke up, you went, oh yeah, yesterday I went in the office, so today is Tuesday. Now I don't have that frame of reference. So I have Wednesdays, but sometimes I even get to Tuesday night and go, oh, tomorrow's Wednesday. I got to talk to Shelley. But the thing went well. They did have somebody walk up, which they were a little concerned about, but it was somebody who got a ride from somebody, and they got out of the car and came up and got their stuff and went back and got in the car. Didn't turn out to be a problem. Again, if you want lunch on a Friday, you have to register by Monday. If you want it on Monday, you have to register by Thursday. So tomorrow will be the deadline for next Monday. I don't know what the menu is. I didn't get that. I'm sorry. But call Ruth. Also, they do have the farmers market coupons, finally. You need to call to get on the list. And they did have their Tai Chi class outdoors yesterday. Went very well. It's the first activity they've had since they shut down in March. So very slow going, but little things by little are coming. I know my sister's a big Zumba fan. They haven't gone over there yet, but they've been going. She said they go to over by the Salve Geddes municipal buildings. There's a park, and they've been going there. They went to Oneida Shores. They use the parking lot and use every other parking spot for somebody to be in it. So people are getting out, trying to do things. It's just my my public safety announcement, we see what's going on in the rest of the country.
Right.
New York is far from perfect, but between New York and particularly Onondaga County, the mask situation is not as bad here as other places. People are adhering 95% to the mask thing. Washing your hands still is very important. We have been very good. I hear national broadcasters referring to, well, New York went through this, but New York is better. And New York's going down while everybody else is going up.
Yep.
I feel bad for the rest of the country. I'm happy for us that we can have a little bit of normalcy, but let's keep it that way. If you're going to go to the grocery store, just wear a mask. I mean, I'm still mystified that a mask is such a barrier to people, but people fought seatbelts. They went 6 months to a year before they finally put seatbelts on. But in those cases, it's you it affects mostly. When you don't wear a mask, you could be affecting everybody around you. And I get that some people are not buying into this. It's hard to believe when you continually hear people that I'm friends with on Facebook saying my cousin just got the virus, and 4 days later, when my cousin just died, people are sending out messages. Does anybody know anybody who actually got the virus? Does anybody know any kids that have been sick? It's like they're searching to find that they want to be able to say nobody, that this is just, well, I know people, not somebody within my neighborhood circle, but people in my life circle who have had the virus, and a couple didn't make it. And as Ryan McMahon says, every one is a disaster that we lose. It's terrible. There were people who had more life to give, and okay, I'm off that soapbox, but just know that's how I feel. Mo asked me to remind people again about the elections on September 15th. If you need an absentee ballot, they have applications. So you can contact Village Hall to get your absentee ballot. Not sure whether it will be entirely done by ballots. At this point, we don't think so. We think it's going to be people coming into Village Hall to vote. But things can change. If the numbers shoot up suddenly, they may say everything's going to be absentee ballot. So don't wait till the end to put your application in and then get caught in a flood of 1,500 people all applying the same day and village people being overwhelmed. Another reminder that the restrooms in the parks are still closed. I don't know if things continue to get better, if the county will ease up on the restrictions that, cleaning them once a day will be sufficient. At this point, it's not, and we just can't afford to hire people. We don't know. At this point, we don't know what our financial situation is going to be. We could be down $1 million from our revenue, and that's pretty devastating in a $4.5 million budget. I know the school is still planning to have resource officers from Beeville if they have school. That's obviously a big thing.
Yep.
There's a lot of things going on I understand are stressing people out to no end. I don't have little kids to worry about in school, but I have neighbors who have kids. I have a grandchild in Illinois who's still in school. Rest of the kids are in college mostly and got to worry about their situations. So you're not immune to impact. I mean, you have kids in school, one going ready for college, and everything's up in the air. I mean, it just adds to our stress level in addition to how are we going to get groceries? How are we going to stay safe in our house? Trying to keep the budget working. Everybody has a different cross to bear. And in some cases, it's more than one cross that they're bearing. That's financial, it's social, it's educational. You start adding those things up, and we still have that 211 number that the county has available for people. If you're running into a situation where you really are stressing, and you're not sure how you're going to get till tomorrow, call and they will find somebody that either will help you just by talking to you, or they'll find you help for your situation. If it's daycare, if it's this renters thing, they'll be aware of it. They'll find the right person to have you talk to. So don't go through it alone. Don't stress out. Don't take it out on the people around you. Call for some help. Otherwise, I think that we've been operating pretty normally around the village. The police have not had any unusual problems. Our community has been very cooperative as far as I think we have just the normal, typical stuff that we would have had last summer.
Yeah.
Boats over on the wall. It's such a nice sight to see. I went by the other day and saw 5 boats tied up. When you've been around as long as I have, and that's sort of a tradition to see the boats over there. It just had another little bit of normal back in our life. And I hope it is helping the local restaurants. I hope people remember us, that we, did have our docks out in our canoe kayak launches and stuff. It's so that people can get out of the house and let loose a little bit. I'm sure with your family. And so I think that's about it. I think I have covered all that I have on my sheet. We did get a nice application. It's nothing final. The Lions Club, which has always been a huge supporter of Community Park. It used to be called Lions Park. They sort of named it that before it really had a name. They did a lot of investing in the park before the village put much money into it. They would like to add some special needs type swings. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they have a door. You can actually put a wheelchair in and strap it in. So now a kid in a wheelchair can actually ride on the swings with his friends. So they're going to they're approaching the village and asking, what do they need to do to be able to do something like that? And it's just awesome. We have so many great organizations. The Rotary, we've talked about 100 times, things they do, the Lions Club, the Kiwanis, the things they do for kids and people with needs of eyeglass problems. The Lions Club is so supportive with that type of stuff. The Rotary has been great in so many areas that they give. And I know everybody has lost out on some of their income stuff because of the COVID. Can't have the Seneca River Days, different functions. So people out there, if you are a contributor, you don't have to look too far to find somebody that contributes back into our community. Yeah. Hey, if cancer is your thing, help the cancer funds. If it's homeless people, do what you got to do. But if you're looking for help in your neighborhoods, these organizations, the Volunteer Center, they're all there. The food bank, they're there for our people. If you want to keep it local, those are the ways to go. They will be very happy to help you if you want to unload a check from $5 to $50 to whatever. Remember the local groups, because they are every day helping somebody in our community. Peace is not necessarily a local group, but they are local in their operation. The rescue mission, if you have things that they can sell, because I didn't realize till the pandemic hit that the rescue mission's sole source of income besides donations are the centers where they sell clothes and furniture and stuff. And when they were shut down, it impacted not only the people who use the rescue mission for help, but people who work for the rescue mission. A lot of them got laid off. And so the ripple effects probably going to be for a year or two before we get past that. So the only bad news I have to offer is it doesn't affect us because our budget doesn't start until March 1st, but municipalities whose budgets start January 1st, they can only raise taxes 1.56% because that's the consumer price index is down. We can go up to 2%. So it straps municipalities a little bit when they're trying to figure out their budgets. They just have a little less leeway to raise money. So we like that 2% number. So
I was gonna ask you, who's that bad news for? I mean, I understand when you raise taxes, it helps all of us, but as the taxpayers are listening, knowing that their taxes can't go up to 2%, there might be a couple people that might not think that's necessarily bad news, Mayor.
I thought of that as I was saying it, that not everybody's going to be disappointed. It just, when you look at your municipality, if you think your municipality does good things with the tax money that they get,
Right.
To know that the little, I mean, 2% on a $4 million budget is not a whole lot of money. And now when you go down to 1.5%, because everybody who has a household realizes that the cost of living goes up. I mean, and it's up now. Groceries are going to get more expensive. We don't buy groceries in the village. Van Buren doesn't buy groceries, but it could affect, eventually a layoff. You might have to let somebody go if you can't raise taxes to keep up, because compensation goes up, health insurance goes up, all that stuff goes up, and it goes up more than 1.5%. So somewhere you have to cut. And if you listen to Ryan McMahon, what he's talking about with $40 million, they're talking about people losing jobs. They're talking about services being gone. Better hope that the federal government has a little bit of cash stored somewhere that they can help local municipalities. Particularly, the county helps everybody in the county, and then they help all the towns and the villages. So if the county gets stronger, we'll all get stronger. So, I guess that's bad news or good news. 1.56% is that'll affect Van Buren and Lysander. And again, it's not a huge amount of money, but it might be a summer helper. You might say we're going to have one less summer help this year because of the difference in the.
No, I just had to tease you because I always say no bad news. So technically, depending on how somebody views
that's
that,
right. So I didn't really give you bad news. I try to adhere to that. I think I look at my stuff and go, oh, is she going to interpret this as bad news? I'm going to get beat up for this. So today was mostly good news.
Bad news sometimes in our life, Mayor. I look at you to bring me joy. What joyful thing happened in Baldwinsville this week?
Way to put pressure on.
So, well, I appreciate it. I mean, and we kind of knew this as COVID becomes normal, right? The masks and the social distancing and things. Luckily for us, and I hope it stays that way, our numbers stay down. I know there's been some increases. People are a little nervous when school starts, what that's going to do, but I kind of agree. I mean, I saw 3 boys riding their bikes and they were keeping their distance, but the boy in the middle had a mask on it. And I thought his mom would be so proud that she told him, keep your mask on while you're playing with your friends. And here he is driving down Oswego Street with his mask. It might have been under his nose, but that boy still had his mask.
Wow. He's trying.
He's trying.
I just saw a note, excuse me, I just saw a note flash across a news story that's saying Walmart's going to require people to wear masks. So I'm assuming they'll have somebody at the door. If you don't have a mask, they won't let you in.
But you know what they do? The one over in Clay, I went this weekend. So they must have been prepping for it. You could only go, used to be you could go in both doors and out both doors. You just had to pick a direction. They had the door, let's just say it's 131. If you're looking at the Walmart, the door to the right was completely closed, emergency exit only. And there was somebody who looked like security or some type of law enforcement at the door that you could go in. So, and I thought she was there for the mask because this was right after the Costco thing went viral where somebody got upset, unfortunately, but it's not really. And I think about this, I have a daughter who works in retail right now. It's not her responsibility to get into an altercation with somebody wearing a mask. But if your job says, your employment says, ask them to put a mask on. So it was nice to see somebody there that was trained to handle if somebody was upset they weren't wearing masks. But I bet you that was prep, that Walmart's like, let's just get this started. It's going to be mandated. So I did see that. All right, good. Mayor. Well, thank you for the information, the good/bad news, depending on how people want to take it.
That's right.
And I look forward next week. I know that they came out with Governor Comey came out with the requirements for school. Let's see what happens between now and next week if we actually get something from our school district. it's got to be a lot of planning. I can't imagine we're going to have anything next week. That's a lot of pressure to put on Beeville and Liverpool and everywhere else. But I think that's what most people, at least in my age, and younger and a little bit older, that's what our next thing is with the kids is, okay, we've mastered the new norm, but now what's going on with the kids? So that's what we're waiting for, I guess.
And it's not easy. Nothing's going to be 100% perfect. That's for sure.
No.
So.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I look forward to talking to you next week.
Have a good one. Bye, Shel.